Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave and this is my daily ruling. Today's question was suggested by a viewer. Thanks to Sir Reginald IV for this one. Amy exiles her own grizzly bears with Lagrella the Magpie. When Lagrella dies, Amy controls Panharmonicon. How many counters does grizzly bears get? Alright, so for this question, I want to build my way up to an answer by considering some related scenarios first. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while now, you might already know that if you just play a spike worker with Panharmonicon out, it would not get any additional counters. And that's because Panharmonicon only cares about triggered abilities. But if you have something that says this enters with counters on it, well, that's a replacement effect. If you don't see the word when, whenever, or at anywhere, then Panharmonicon isn't going to be doing anything at all. For a similar reason, if Amy had used something like this Lilysplash Mentor to blink the grizzly bears, that wouldn't work either. We don't see any of the special triggered ability words, so there's no triggered ability here. Well, next up, let's take a look at this card that I had to make up because somehow in Magic's 30-year history, there has not been a card that does this yet. We're getting a little bit warmer here because the thing that returns the creature to the battlefield and puts a +1/+1 counter on it is actually a triggered ability, but let's take a closer look. And we'll see that causing this ability to trigger an additional time wouldn't really help anything. You would just return the creature to the battlefield, then put a +1/+1 counter on it during the resolution of the first instance of this ability that resolved. Then, when the second instance resolved, there wouldn't be any exiled cards to return, so nothing would happen. You wouldn't get to put a second +1/+1 counter on the thing that got returned previously, just like you also wouldn't be able to put any additional counters on creatures that Phelia's Closet returned on previous turns. And now we're ready to tackle Lagrella. We can see that this looks really promising because this card skillfully dodges all of the problems that we talked about earlier. It definitely is a bona fide triggered ability putting the counters on the creatures. It's even worded in such a way that resolving that ability twice would be able to put counters on the exiled creature 2 times. Unfortunately, there's one more problem. Notice how Lagrella's ability is structured. There's one big ability that exiles the creatures, specifies the condition to return them to the battlefield, and sets up a delayed trigger that gives your creatures +1/+1 counters. Unfortunately, that structure is the problem. The trigger that we want to double is not an independent triggered ability of Lagrella. It's a delayed trigger that results from Lagrella's ability resolving, which is unfortunately not close enough to count for Panharmonicon. So again, you would not get any additional +1/+1 counters. Now that's not to say Panharmonicon and Lagrella don't interact at all though. Lagrella's ability that triggers when it enters does count as an ability of Lagrella, so Panharmonicon would make that ability trigger twice. This means you would be able to exile up to 1 creature controlled by every player, and then you would get to exile another set of creatures from the additional instance of Lagrella's ability. After Lagrella leaves the battlefield, all of the creatures you exiled would get returned at the same time. If any of them enter under your control, those creatures will each get the normal 2 counters. If you'd like some more practice with this concept, check out my video on Grishnak, Brash Instigator, and Annie Joins Up. And if you'd like a deeper discussion on Lagrella's ability, including why it had to be worded in such a way that this trick didn't work, check out my video, How Does Lagrella the Magpie Work? That's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.